Hello and welcome to the Five Factors Podcast. I am Tal Prince, happily here with Matt Adair of Five Factors, and we are glad to be with you. This is episode 53, kids, and we are grateful to have you with us along the journey. So, Matt, how are you as we start episode 53?
Yes, it is episode 1 of season 2. I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve because this Thursday I will be in what used to be Turner Field in Atlanta. It is now Georgia State Stadium, and I will see football live 2018, the first day of the college football season, and my friend Will and I will trek over to Atlanta and we will see the brawl between Georgia State and Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is actually pretty tough in the playoffs last year for what I will continue to call 1AA football. It should be a fun game. It'll be more fun because I'll be with my pal Will, and football is here. So I feel extravagant today.
You feel extravagant.
Yes. I don't think that's on a feelings wheel anywhere, but that's what came to mind. I am on a cloud. I am happy as a pig in slop, happy as a fat kid in a chocolate factory. And as a former fat kid, I don't feel like I'm discriminating against fat kids. How are you?
I would not say extravagant, but I'm doing well today. We are bridging into. I know you're very excited about football season coming back.
I am.
I am excited about the return of Premier League soccer.
Did they actually take a break?
Yeah, they do. They do, especially this year. We had the World Cup, which was exciting and awesome. And so there was
How'd the Americans do
in the internet. Okay. So, because of people like you not supporting the program, we're having some challenges, but we're gonna be back stronger than ever. Is my hope. But we'll see.
Excuse me. Did I coach the team and did I fill the roster with old players? No. See, I actually know enough of what's going on to be able to speak into the failure of the American men's team to be in the World Cup, because I'm not hating on the women because they'll probably make it and they probably will win it whenever they play.
And
go ahead. Hold on
probably.
just a second before we go any further. Y'all, that's as much soccer as you're going to get out of me in season 2. So go ahead, timestamp it. That's it.
That was it. And I will say that that Matt you have played a role in youth development because you coached incorrectly for a while, and so this is another part of the problem.
Okay, so can we talk about my incorrect coaching that was supposedly incorrect? So I'm coaching when I coached my youngest son Ben last spring. So it's 4-on-4 U8 soccer. And so I'm going to play 3 up and 1 back. We don't have goalies, but I'm going to play 1 back for multiple reasons. Okay. And so I have the first game of the year. I'm told by a friend of mine whose son is playing on the other team at halftime. He comes over and says, "Hey, a couple of our dads are mad because you're playing somebody back." And I'm like, okay, y'all are up like 7-4. Y'all can go do whatever. So in the second half, one of my kids gets a little bit confused, gets back in the box, which we're not supposed to be back in the box, but he was playing a little bit too far back. I tell him to come up. He'd come back, but he's new, doesn't know what he's doing. I have a dad come stomping down the sidelines, yelling at me in front of everybody. I mean, I just stared back at him. It's youth rec league soccer, but that apparently is me staining the soil of soccer because according to this man, I didn't know what I was doing.
I don't know that you were staining the soil of soccer as much as you were staining the soil of his ego. That was probably larger issue.
I don't know who he is. I'm sure he is a wonderful father, a doting husband, and he is the epitome of everything that men should be, but not in that moment.
Wow. That's high praise.
I'm just assuming the best of this gentleman and questioning his behavior on the sideline of a soccer match.
Well, I appreciate it. But so speaking of coaching,
Yes.
incorrect or correct,
Yes.
we will we will bridge into this is what we've been talking about with you all month. We've been talking here on the podcast about coaching, and so today, what do we have for our listeners?
Well, we basically wanted to take the questions that we get most often about coaching, and we just wanted to kind of address them here. And so we've been talking about how do you use coaching to take your life and leadership to the next level. And so we've said, because this is how we're kind of packaging things, we've been paying attention the last couple of months. What we're doing is we're essentially taking an entire month and focusing on one topic. It allows us to be able to dig into some topics a little bit more than just kind of going randomly week by week. And that's one of the reasons you should subscribe, because we're going to continue to talk about topics that really matter to church leaders. So next month, and starting in next week's episode, we're going to be talking about how, so what does it look like for you and I as church leaders to pray for our people? How do we as pastors make prayer front and center in our work, in our ministry as leaders? So we're going to be talking about all that month long. So you need to subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. You can subscribe, and every single Monday there'll be a brand new episode, a brand new continuation in this conversation that we're having with you. But here's what we want to talk about today. We want to basically take all these questions that we've had related to coaching. We're going to talk about 5 about coaching in general, and then 5 about our program, 5 Factors Coaching, and just trying to help you follow through on what we encouraged you to do last week, which was to hire a coach. Hire a coach for the rest of the year. This is such a significant time of the year for us as church leaders, and it's a great time for you to have somebody come alongside of you and help you continue to grow and thrive as a leader. Be the very best leader, be the very best person that you possibly can be. So I'll start with this one. This is question number 1. Tal, why has coaching for pastors become so popular? Just from your perspective, you don't have to get into the history of what's happened and how that market has been created and the economics of it, but why do you feel like coaching for pastors has become so popular?
I think the stigma has lowered. I think that's a big deal, and I think also the cultural stigma has gone away. And I've said this, I think almost every week. The business leaders have dove heavily into coaching because they've seen the value of it, and so I think that makes it easier for pastors to do the same. And so many of us in our churches, some of our key leaders are our business leaders. And so they're seeing it in their culture. And sometimes they're driving the bus in terms of, hey, do you have a pastor coach? Do you have anybody like that? And, so I think that's where we're seeing a lot of growth in pastors seeking coaching, that and so many pastors seeing the benefits of it and singing the praises of coaching. And, when people you respect are saying, hey, you know what, this has been great for me, we're more prone to hop on that bus. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, and we haven't said it this month, but I know that there are things that can turn into fads. I know in the tribe that I'm a part of, at least one of them, like date night for pastors and their wives became almost like it was almost like a badge of orthodoxy. And so I get a little bit concerned that when everybody talks about pastors should have coaches, that it's not becoming that. So that's part of the reason why we did these episodes, is we wanted to kind of cut through the noise and go, let's be honest about, do you need a coach? What should that coach look like? What should you expect out of them? That kind of thing. So yeah, I agree with that. Question number 2, is there research to back the benefits of coaching? So just more than just anecdotes and people throwing out just nice concepts. Is there research there to back the benefits of coaching?
There needs to be a lot more research on the benefits of coaching, and I think that's coming. But there is research on it. It's what we call qualitative research as opposed to quantitative research. There's very thin quantitative research, meaning I saw an X percentage increase in performance. We're not seeing a lot of that, but we are seeing a lot of good qualitative studies. From people saying, you know what, I got a coach and that's been really helpful. It's helped me in general in these areas. I've seen increased performance, but it's not quantified. So it's not down to numbers. That's a completely different type of study. And we just don't have a lot of those. I know that there are several in process right now. So I think we're going to see more and more of that, but the qualitative research has been very, very positive.
Yeah, we'll link up a couple things in the show notes. So to those of you who would be compelled and would just need that little nudge by statistic, great. For those of you who are just like looking to find access to grind, we can't help you anyway. So, I mean, you can go look at the research, but I mean, if you don't want to buy in, ain't nothing we're going to be able to say or do is going to be able to convince you. So question number 3, this is a perfect question for you. What's the difference between counseling and coaching?
I was going to ask you. So the deal is, I said this a couple weeks ago, counseling, we're far more honed in on kind of constant life challenges, life controlling issues, mental disorders, personality disorders, depression, anxiety, addiction, habits, relationship difficulties. We're looking at those things, and it kind of takes a deeper dive, but really we're going to dig back into where that usually comes from, and that's going to be in the past. We're going to be looking back at your past to see, how did you get here? How often has this been a problem? How is this, where did you learn this? So family of origin, all that type of stuff. And so we're looking at, as a counselor, my major goal is to provide healing and give you skills going forward, but with a major on the healing and learning new things. Learning new ways of doing things to move forward. Coaching is not as much about healing as it is performance enhancement. It is looking at what's there, looking at your blind spots and your weaknesses, and then trying to help you work on those. I think the best way that you put it during this series is the trainer concept. And I'll go back to Happy Gilmore for a second. Chubbs doesn't give a rat's tail about Happy's grandmother losing the house. Doesn't give a rat's tail as to, Happy only wants to play hockey, and here's why he likes to play hockey. He doesn't care about any of that. What he is looking at is, how do I make a great golfer out of this person standing in front of me? That's what this person currently wants. How do I help him get there? And that's just a great definition of a coach. There are some therapists that specialize in that, but not many. Most of us are looking more at past and how it impacts the present and how we can help you maybe moving forward in the future. Coaches are far more future oriented. That's the simplest way to explain the difference, I think.
Yeah, and so if you're listening to this and you are coaching, and you see yourself as more of kind of a pastoral approach to coaching, one concern that I have, and it's a somewhat mild concern, and so I'll speak into my own tribe. When I hear coaches talk about that, I'm going to focus on gospel-centered coaching. I'm a little concerned within gospel centrality as a tribe, as a system, that for all the good that there is in talking about the idols of our heart, I feel like we are, if we're not careful, we may actually be junior high chemistry students thinking that we know how to split the atom. Meaning that you're not completely incorrect in talking about idolatry. But when you think that because you have read a little bit and can talk a little bit about idolatry, that you can now diagnose every single issue that's going on in the life of somebody through the lens of idolatry, just be careful. Just be careful. Do your work. Be a little bit more slow. So that's me speaking into my own tribe, not somebody else's tribe, and just a growing concern that I have with the way that we're operating out of that. But I think that's a helpful, counseling tends to look back, coaching tends to look forward. All right. So question number 4, what's the best question to ask a prospective coach? So when I get this question, it's always weird because somebody, sometimes somebody be asking me maybe to coach them, and they're like, hey, so like, what should I be asking you? Well, I appreciate you giving me a loaded gun there, and I could basically craft it in to make me the perfect solution for you, and I hope that I never do that. But so from a therapist perspective, though, if you got a pastor, he's like, I think I need a coach, or you're like, I think you need a coach, and he's like, okay, well, what question should I ask to find out if they're good? Like, how would you answer that?
I want them to ask, how do you work? What's your methodology? I think that's key. I think you need to know what their perspective, their theory that they're working from is, what their methodology is. How do you work? Because I think a lot of us aren't going to gel with every coaching approach. Like it's the same as you're not going to gel with every counseling approach.
Yeah.
And if you just kind of go into a coaching arrangement because, a buddy told you this guy was good, or, a friend or a church member said, this woman is a great coach, just go get her. But you don't gel with their approach, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so it's just so helpful on the front end if you'll ask, how do you work? And then really evaluate whether or not that's going to gel with you.
Yeah. It's good. Question number 5, why doesn't coaching work for some people?
Because they didn't ask the question that I just said. I think that's a big piece. They didn't ask. But some of the qualitative research out there does show that one of the bigger mistakes that people are making when finding a coach is they find someone that works too similarly to them, that has too similar a personality style. And so that it doesn't work as well. Our listeners should know, I'm far more a Myers-Briggs guy, far more than I am an Enneagram guy. So, but what I'm going to tell you in Myers-Briggs speak is, if you're working with someone who has the exact same personality type to you, guess what? They have the same blind spots that you do.
Yeah.
They're not going to see them as well. When I sit down with Matt, if I'm sitting down and I have a question about kind of practice, building my practice, or, building other things that I'm doing, he has a completely different mindset than I do. I know this comes as a great shock to many of you. He does not think like I do. He thinks he just thinks everything in schematics. The dude's brain is just a constant flow chart. And if you're watching the podcast today, he doesn't have his whiteboard behind him. And so I'm sure he feels a little bit lost, but he's in front of a beautiful wood panel background.
It's real wood, I'm sure.
It's real wood, kids. So
growing into the wall of a building.
He's so systemic in his approach. I am so not systemic. And so he sees things that I don't, and he thinks in a way that I don't. And so I'm challenged by that. If a coach that you're working with can't challenge you because they have the same perspective as you, you're not going to grow from that. It's just a fact. And I think that's one of the unique things that we bring two radically different perspectives to the game. You're going to gel with one of us, and just our joint approach to things is we're going to have a fuller perspective than I think a lot of people. What is it for you when you see it not working for somebody?
Well, you kind of said at the beginning, and when you were kind of only half joking about them not asking the right question about how the coach works. But what I find is people who don't really thrive in coaching are people who aren't curious. It's people who just basically they show up and they expect the coach to do all the work.
Oh, geez.
And so, there is that element of, you don't have to be good at any of this in order to thrive within coaching, but you got to show up, and it helps if you're bringing yourself to the table, and it helps if you're curious and not just showing up and going, hey, so what are you learning right now? Or what are you doing? When I see that, I'm like, yeah, you're not actually going to thrive in this. What you're doing is just accumulating information. Sometimes that just tells me, hey, you really just need a mentor. You need to go read a book or go to a conference if that's really all you need. But if they're trying to make progress in an area and they're not curious, then that's the most by far the people that I've seen in our programs that don't tend to quite get the kind of results that other people get. That's why.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. And I do the same as a counselor. If someone's coming to me and they're not doing the work, I can't fix you. You've got to be engaged in the process. And as one would think, a lot of my clients come to me, if they're dealing with addictive behavior, particularly porn or sex or anything like that, they're coming to me because their spouse has caught them and they don't have a choice. They have to go see a counselor. Yeah. I've got a guy in my mix right now who came currently separated and in our first session, he said, yeah, so, my wife told me that, I can't come back into the house until I've had 4 sessions with a counselor. Do you think I know what his agenda is?
Yeah.
This guy's checking 4 boxes and wants to go back home.
Yeah.
It's not chances of emerging with any semblance of health in that are pretty thin. So we're not going to see a lot of progress. But so those are questions 1 through 5. We're halfway through the list. You asked me the first 5. I will ask you the second 5.
Okay.
And so here you go. Question number 6 on the countdown, or count up, actually, is how we're going, is how does 5 factors coaching work?
So let's make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about. 5 Factors Coaching is our coaching program that that we've had for about a year. At this point, has around 100 clients, and I think the kind of the core part of the program, basically every single month we create a brand new course that's on some subject related to the 5 factors. So we're going to talk about something related to mental health, physical health, relational health, spiritual health, vocational health. And these courses, as we've learned what people need, how they process things best. So we have a lesson that's about 10 minutes long. And then we're going to have basically a follow-up lesson a couple weeks later that's going to be about another 10 minutes long. And it's all trying to get you to the point of taking action, creating a very simple, basic system related to something. So, maybe we're talking about something related to developing friendships, which is an area that we see a lot of loneliness within pastors, or whether we're talking about, hey, how do you come alongside suffering people? How do you pastor suffering people in your church? We may talk about any of these 5 critical factors in terms of life and leadership. And then what we're going to do is that once a month, Tal and I are going to just have a live call, and we're going to not teach more information. We're just going to basically answer your questions, and we're just going to engage there. And so that's kind of the drivetrain for us. And then we also have personalized access to us throughout the month. And it's just an app that we use on the phone, and it's kind of on-demand coaching. And it doesn't have to be related to anything that we're talking about in the course that month. It can just be about whatever is happening in your life and leadership. And if you need us to come alongside and coach you through that, then we're available to do that. And so, I'm looking down here at my phone right now. I've got 8 messages waiting for me when we're done. And so I'm going to leave here, and I'm going to get in my car, and I'm going to drive back to my house. I've got 20 minutes, and I'll probably answer all 8 of those. So we're just trying to create personalized on-demand coaching for you. And all the courses are archived. Everything's there. You have access to that the entire time that you're part of the coaching program.
Yeah, and with that special access, I just want to say, to be clear, I'm not there. I'm not able to really work with you as a counselor, but if you have, as a pastor, a pastoral leader, someone on staff, if you've got a counseling question, you've got somebody who's been in your office and you don't know what to do with that, and so it's a counseling issue, you can ask me that. If it gets into deep kind of like your own stuff, I'm not going to be able to really help you in that format. 1, I'm not licensed in your state, and 2, those are longer appointments. But if you've got, somebody's got an issue, or hey, I've read about this. What's the difference between these 2 things? Man, ask me. I'm happy to help you. Or you want to learn about addiction, man, ask me questions. I will talk about addiction at the drop of a hat. So let's do that. So question number 7. What is unique about 5 factors coaching? What makes what we do different?
I'll take it from 2 perspectives. I think one thing that's unique is the combination of you and me. Meaning, here I am as a pastor, Tal as a former pastor, so people with pastoral experience. I'm still in the trenches, leading a church of hundreds, not thousands. I've got to do a lot of different things in my church. I'm not just kind of sitting in my office, just doing sermon prep, and that's all I do. And so I'm still in the game. Tal was a church planner, so he knows what that's like. But then I'm a performance coach, Tal's a therapist. And so you get those combination of things. And in terms of what's unique within the church marketplace, and what I know of church leaders, all great guys, people that I get to do a lot of work with and appreciate and respect and will point people towards if we're not the right fit for them. So I think that's unique. And I think the other thing in terms of just beyond just our process, which I love kind of how research-based, how kind of therapeutic-based that success path we have is. I think the fact that we've tried to create affordable on-demand coaching. So for less than $100 a month, you have access to somebody, that at a push of a button. And so a lot of coaching programs, you're going to get a video, you might get a live Q&A, but the opportunity to just hit a button and get a response back from us pretty quickly that's personalized for you, that combination of things seems to be pretty rare and unique based on what I know about the church marketplace and what's available in terms of coaching.
Yeah, I think that's it. So I will go to question number 8. So who is 5 Factors coaching designed to help? Who is the best candidate for us?
Yeah, I mean, we have a few marketplace leaders that are in the program, and but the vast majority of who we're working with are church leaders, pastors, executive pastors, and because that's really kind of our target in terms of beyond what kind of church leader. I think that what we are building is something that is primarily for that small to medium-sized church, and then also somebody whose wiring is just as we said before. You want to grow, you want to develop, you're willing to kind of show up and do a little bit of work consistently and believe that if I just put one foot in front of the other, I'm going to just make some massive gains over the next year. A person who's not afraid to hit a button on an app and ask a question. That's really who we're trying to create it for. Somebody who's curious, somebody who wants to grow, somebody who's kind of come to that place where they're like, look, I need somebody in my corner. I need somebody who cares about me, who wants me to progress. It doesn't have really any other agenda than beyond my success. That's you're a perfect candidate for what we're doing.
Yeah, and I would add to that those that like to learn in community. Some of the coaching calls we do, the live coaching things we do with several, people, there, in the group, and because I learn better in groups. There's a lot of questions that I don't know that I have, until someone asks them. Oh, hi, that's great, and you get a lot of extra information that way. So if that's a helpful thing for you, then I'd say that's another reason that we would be uniquely positioned to help you out. Then question number 9 of 10. Are you ready? Number 9.
Ready.
What kind of commitment is involved? If I decide to go with 5 Factors coaching, what kind of commitment am I making?
First off, you're making a commitment to your own development. And so I see this as an investment in yourself. And when I meet with elder teams about coaching, usually one-on-one clients, a little more significant, not what we're talking about here, what I communicate to elder teams, leadership boards, what I'm communicating to them is you're making an investment in the most significant asset in your church. And so that's how I see this as an investment. But from a financial standpoint, the commitment is less than $100 a month. And we've got a couple of options there that I think can fit your church budget and will provide value for you. In terms, it's not like an annual contract, like you're locked in for a year. There are no contracts. If you want to do this for 1 month, for 1 year, for 1 decade, that's great. As long as you're getting value out of it, we want you to be in it. And then in terms of the time commitment each month, what we have done based on feedback from people that have been in the program is that we have just tried to create bite-sized, smaller courses. So seriously, 10 minutes, a couple of times a month. I would say total with Q&As and everything like that, you're talking less than 3 hours a month. That if you do that, you're going to make progress in this program. And so we're not talking about mass, like you're going to need a half day every week in order to get this done. So we've tried to create smaller, significant investment for you and a commitment that says if it's not working for you, that's fine. Then, then we're glad and have the opportunity to help you for that month or that year or that decade, however long we get to work with you. Then it'd be a real value and a joy for us to do that.
Yeah, and one of the things we talk about here is incremental change. We're not trying to have you as a pastor or a pastoral leader take your congregation from 200 to 800 by the end of the month.
Yeah.
We're looking at giving you skill sets and giving you, significantly qualitative information that's going to continue to make small incremental changes in you that will hopefully lead to incremental changes in your life, and that's going on out there. there. So it's incremental change. I think a lot of us have joined in and been a part of a lot of different online, type of coaching or course things, and you quickly get overwhelmed by the amount of work that's there in terms of just having to be able to go through the content. And then that overwhelm leads to despair and just like, I can't keep up. I can't keep up. And for a lot of people that I know and work with, that turns to shame of what's wrong with me that I can't do that.
Yeah.
And because if that's the price of admission to be an effective leader, I just suck. I can't do it. And that's just not true. So we're looking at smaller bite-sized pieces and small incremental change in just steady incremental improvement in your life. And that makes a big difference. So that's a big deal to us. So question number 10, the last question, Matt, from our listeners. Why did you guys start 5 Factors Coaching?
I'll bypass the history, the oral history of 5 Factors Coaching. We'll skip that and save that for another day. For me, and then Tal, you can answer this for you. I mean, the reason why I think we did this and have done this is because we have seen way too many leaders that are gifted, that have been called by God into ministry by all the indications that we would have to say that that's true, that have not thrived. They either haven't reached their potential that everybody can see they should reach, or they aren't able to stay in ministry for as long as they had hoped. That could be because of they just didn't take care of themselves physically. That could be because of relational breakdowns that belie a unhealthy spirituality that shipwrecks everything. And so I think I got tired of watching good men and women not be able to thrive. And I think that's really what it comes down to. And when you looked at what I do, what you do, who I am, who you are, and looking and going, let's see if we can help some people. And a year in, we've been able to help a lot of people. And so that's the core. I really, really, really want you, if you're listening here, and if all you do is listen to the podcast, or if you're involved in the coaching program, in the end of the day, I just want you to be the best version of yourself. And I want you to live in the freedom of who God made you to be, and in the freedom of what Jesus has done for you. And that's all we're trying to do, is surround you with resources to help you believe that and live that out.
Yeah. For me, I think one of the driving issues was how often that you would call me with a coaching client, asking me questions about what's going on, with this, and how often that was a counseling issue. And so to equip you to be able to talk to that client about like, hey, you might need some counseling on these things. But also, as I've said here, I have a couple of pastors that are clients. And so, but for me, they're talking about their addictive issues, their struggles, depression, anxiety, all those different things. But very often it'll turn into, well, so then how do I do this for my church, or how do I do that for my church? And those are like, pastoral coaching questions. And so I would call you and be like, okay, so I got this dude who's, worried about this. What are some resources for him to go to, in terms of growth, or, how to become a better preacher, or, those different things. And so just kind of noticing the synergy between the two of us and how often our lanes intertwined, it just made sense, to put that together. And anything that we, can put together, on a drive to see U2 in Chicago, that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. So I just think we bring a unique set of perspective and gifts to an audience that we care deeply about. We've known people in ministry, crash and burn. We've watched them burn out. We've watched them crash out, and both are avoidable with the right tools and skill sets, and that a lot of them just don't have. And seminary, quite frankly, doesn't prepare you for a lot of this. I didn't learn how to deal with people in Greek or Hebrew exegesis. Critical things. I'm glad I've got them. I'm grateful, for those things. I'm not slapping in those things, but they also don't help me, grow as a person. They don't help me grow as a leader. There's, where we went anyway, leadership training for ministers was wanting, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, so I think you put all that together, everything we've been talking about over the past several minutes, and answers these questions. And I think here's the secret that I think kind of that we're trying to pull out here. The best results come from doing the next right thing. That's it. We talked about incremental change. We talked about the importance of just playing the long game here. Nobody like the problems we had didn't happen overnight, and the solutions aren't going to be developed overnight. And so it's going to take a while, but that's what we're after. But the best results really come from doing the next right thing. And so that's why we said it last week. We're saying it again this week. We really want to encourage you to go and hire a coach for the rest of the year. In the end, if you're making a fully informed decision based on, what the right kind of coach is, what good coaching looks like, and you find somebody that basically resonates better with you than with what we're doing in 5-factor coaching, great. We'll do everything we can to help you find who that is. But if you're interested in working with us, we have just a couple of days left for you to be able to jump in and to join the 5 Factors coaching family. If you'll go to 5factors.net/coaching, you can go get more information, all the details, lots of questions that we'll answer there. We want to help you make a fully informed decision about whether or not you should become part of this community. Again, we have a couple of options. There's a couple of different plans. We want to help make this the right sized investment for you to get the benefit and the value that you want. Again, the benefit is real simple. We're going to basically help you clarify where you are, where you want to go, and help you get the momentum you need to get the results that you want. That's what's going to happen week in, week out, month in, month out, by just these small investments of time, if you'll come alongside and doing this. So that's really what we want you to do. We're working with over 100 leaders already. We have this available just the next couple of days, and we're closing the doors for 2018. We're not going to take any new clients the rest of the year so that we can work with who we have now. And so this is your last chance in 2018 to jump in and work with us in a coaching capacity. So we'd love to have you. And the next thing for you to do would be to go to 5factors.net/coaching and get the details there about what that's going to look like.
Yeah, so if you're still on the fence, I want to recommend that you go exactly where Matt just told you to go, 5factors.net/coaching, and go out and just get started. Take the risk to get started with us, assuming there are slots still available, because those are filling up, and we want you to get in if this is the right thing for you. And we'll help you evaluate that. But if at any point it's not right for you, you can jet. We're not going to be, we're not going to be mad at you. There's no long-term commitment to us and our program. If we don't fit with you, if you're just not feeling like what we do is right for you, great, that's fine. So go ahead and get started. Avail yourself of this opportunity while it is there. It's not going to be there for the rest of this year, and we don't know right now at what point in 2019 we're going to open that door again, because we do have a high number of clients, but we're opening that window to take some more, but not above our threshold of what we can serve. We're just not interested in that. We're not trying to, grow a huge organization. This is something that Matt and I both care deeply about, and we want to help you. So if this is right for you, go to 5factors.net/coaching and go ahead and get started with us, and we'll look forward to welcoming you to the 5 Factors family when you do that. So that is the month of coaching. All right. So you've heard a month worth of podcasts on coaching. We've hoped that has been helpful to you. And if it's been helpful to you to a point that you want to work with us, you know now how to do that. Next week, we're going to turn our focus to what happens when church leaders pray for people. Okay. And that answer is not as simple as you think. Don't just quickly go to the Sunday school answer. Who's like, oh, they'll be blessed. It's deeper than that. We're going to look forward to working with you on that. And so our next month is going to be on prayer. And so what's going to happen when church leaders pray for their people? So make sure to subscribe to that. Otherwise, you'll be labeled as unholy and uncaring about prayer. So we look forward to having you with us on that series of podcasts. And so we'll see. I'm just watching Matt laugh at that, and I'm enjoying it. So anyway, we will see you next week here at the Five Factors Podcast. Go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review if you can. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month here on as we talk about what happens when church leaders pray for their people. Thanks for listening to the Five Factors Podcast. We'll see you next week.